Welcome to the Monsters Among Us podcast. This is episode 1, season 2, the Varginha UFO incident.
It's a fascinating one, this. Varginha, Brazil, January 96.
Yeah, a really bizarre series of events kicked off there. We're talking reported sightings of strange creatures.
Or at least one UFO, apparently.
Yeah.
Plus a whole lot of claims that spun out afterwards.
Exactly. Things like extraterrestrials being captured by the authorities.
Right, and those strange animal deaths at the zoo, and even that really wild claim about an alien impregnation.
It's a lot to unpack. So our goal today isn't really to say, yes, this happened or no, it didn't, but more to, dig into the firsthand accounts.
See what people actually reported experiencing on the ground and look at the official explanations that came later.
Right. Try and understand what might have unfolded in this small Brazilian town back in 1996. Where do we start?
Well, what's really interesting is how it seemed to just explode from one specific encounter.
That's often the way, isn't it? A single spark.
Precisely. And that spark seems to be the afternoon of January 20th, 1996.
Okay, January 20th. What happened then?
3 young women. They were aged between, I think, 14 and 22.
So teenagers and young adults.
Yeah. And they were reported seeing, something they just couldn't explain.
Something strange. What did they say they saw? What was the description?
It's pretty vivid, actually. They described a creature walking upright, bipedal,
Okay.
but with a disproportionately large head. And the details get weirder.
Like what?
They mentioned spots like veins on its skin, some kind of bumps on the head,
Right.
and maybe the most striking detail,
Yeah.
its eyes. They described them as 2 red balls.
Whoa. 2 red balls. That's intense. That paints quite an image.
It really does. And they also noted how it moved sort of unsteady, wobbly.
Unsteady, like it was hurt.
That was their impression, yeah. They thought maybe it was injured or perhaps sick.
And how did they react? I mean, seeing something like that.
Understandably, they were terrified. They apparently fled the scene, ran home,
I bet.
and told their mother they'd seen the devil.
The devil. Interesting. Not an alien initially.
No, their immediate thought was something supernatural, something from their cultural background. The alien idea seems to have come later.
Fascinating. But that initial sighting, it didn't just stop there, did it? It sounds like things started to spread.
Absolutely. That report seems to have been the catalyst. In the days before and especially after that encounter, other strange reports started surfacing.
Like a ripple effect.
Exactly. Rumors began to fly about UFO sightings in the area around that time.
Okay, so UFOs were part of the mix early on. What other claims started popping up after the creature sighting?
Well, it became quite a cascade. There were suggestions that maybe more of these creatures were seen, even collected.
Selected, as in captured.
That was the rumor.
Yeah.
Some reports mentioned them being observed at a local hospital.
Wow, okay. That's a big claim.
Huge.
Yeah.
And alongside that, people started noticing, or at least reporting, increased military and police activity.
Yeah.
Government vehicles, that sort of thing.
Which would fuel the capture idea, I suppose.
Precisely. Then you had other bits and pieces. A report of some unidentified animal in a local forest.
Right.
The very sad death of a police officer, which some tried to link.
Oh, really? Was there any connection established?
Not officially, but ufologists later tried to weave these threads together. And then there were those unexplained animal deaths at the Varginha Zoo.
So a whole collection of unusual and some tragic events happening around the same time.
Yeah, and as you said, people involved in UFO studies, the ufologists, they later look back and try to connect all these dots, build a bigger picture.
It's a pattern you see sometimes, isn't it? One central, compelling mystery kind of acts like a magnet for other odd happenings.
It does. Whether they're genuinely related or just coincidence, they get pulled into the main narrative. Once an extraordinary explanation takes hold, people can start interpreting everything through that lens.
Finding connections, yeah. So amidst all this rumor and speculation, was there an official investigation? What did the authorities say?
There was, but it took quite a while. The official Brazilian military inquiry results weren't released until 2010.
2010, that's what, 14 years later?
Something like that, yeah. And their conclusion was, much more down to earth.
Okay. What did they conclude?
They determined that what the 3 young women likely encountered was actually a local homeless man, a mentally unstable man known by the nickname Mudinho.
Mudinho. So they're saying it was a case of mistaken identity, a human, not a creature.
That was their official finding. The commander leading the inquiry presented photos of this man, Mudinho.
And they felt his appearance matched the description.
They argued that his physical characteristics aligned with what the girls described. The idea being perhaps he was crouching, maybe covered in mud after rain, looking unwell.
Hmm. And seen briefly by frightened witnesses.
Exactly. They suggested that in a state of fear, maybe glimpsed through rain or from a distance, this man could have been mistaken for something
Eh.
otherworldly.
It's plausible, I suppose. Fear can distort perception. But what about all that increased military activity everyone was reporting? Did they explain that?
They addressed that too. The official inquiry maintained that all the reported military and police presence was just routine business.
Routine? Like what?
They gave examples. Firefighters were apparently dealing with something routine in the Jardim-on-Deer neighborhood around that time. Army trucks were seen, but they said those were just parked for standard maintenance.
Okay.
And vehicles from the nearby Army Sergeant School, SS, were seen leaving, but that was apparently just their normal schedule.
So the official line is a series of completely normal, unrelated activities happening coincidentally around the time of the sighting.
That's the gist. They concluded these everyday events were incorrectly interpreted by the public, who were already primed by the creature story as evidence of some secret alien capture operation.
A case of confirmation bias on a community scale, perhaps?
That's what the official report implies. It really highlights how expectation can shape perception, doesn't it?
It certainly does. Now, there's also a skeptical perspective mentioned here from Brian Dunning. What was his take?
Yes, Dunning. He's known for his critical analysis of these kinds of claims.
Yeah.
And he was pretty blunt about Varginha.
How so?
He essentially views the entire incident as a classic example of media sensationalism and wishful thinking by ufologists.
So he thinks nothing actually happened.
He argues it's a case where literally nothing at all happened that was remotely unusual, but it got blown completely out of proportion.
He doesn't mince words then.
Not at all. He basically challenges anyone who believes the extraterrestrial story to take a hard look at the actual evidence, or lack thereof.
Suggesting the standards of evidence are too low.
Precisely. He uses Varginha as a kind of cautionary tale about how easily a narrative can form and spread, even without solid proof. He urges people to be much more critical.
So we have these really compelling, vivid eyewitness accounts from the women.
Right. And this whole wave of other strange reports that seem to support something unusual happening.
But on the other side, the official military explanation points to mistaken identity and coincidence.
Backed up by skeptical voices like Dunning, emphasizing the lack of hard, verifiable evidence. It's a stark contrast.
It really is. So even if you accept the official explanation, the Varginha incident clearly didn't just fade away. It left a mark, didn't it?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's had an undeniable, long-lasting impact, especially on the town of Varginha itself, particularly on tourism.
Tourism. How has an alleged alien sighting affected tourism?
Well, the town has kind of embraced the legend. You can actually buy gray alien dolls there.
Seriously?
Yeah, apparently they sometimes dress them in the local football team uniforms, which is
Oh.
quite amusing.
Ah, that's something.
And the gray alien image pops up in official advertising for the area, too. They've really leaned into it.
So they're using it as a unique selling point.
Seems like it. They've even built bus stops shaped like flying saucers.
You're kidding.
Nope. And the most visible landmark is probably the town's water tower. It's huge, 20 meters tall.
Don't tell me.
It's designed with a big, disc-shaped reservoir on top. Its official name is the Nove Espaciolo de Varginha.
The Varginha spacecraft. Wow, okay. They have fully committed.
They really have. It's fascinating how a local mystery, whatever its basis in fact, can become so central to a place's identity and even its economy.
It truly is. And it seems the story's influence goes beyond just Varginha itself. It's popped up in media, too.
Yes, the incident has definitely inspired creative works over the years. It hasn't been forgotten.
Like what kind of things?
Well, there was a short horror film in 2020 called 1996, apparently done in a sort of Blair Witch found footage style, reimagining the events.
Interesting take.
There was even a video game back in the day, Incidente in Varginha, and more recently a documentary in 2022 called Moment of Contact, focused specifically on the case.
So filmmakers are still drawn to it.
Absolutely. And it even got turned into a comic book, OVNI L'Affaire Varginha. The story clearly has legs.
It really does. Decades later, people are still talking about it, making films, writing about it. It speaks volumes about our fascination with the unknown, doesn't it?
Definitely. The possibility of life beyond Earth, close encounters.
Mm-hmm.
These ideas have a powerful pull on the imagination.
And then even with official explanations and skeptical critiques, that core mystery of what really happened in Varginha back in '96 seems to endure. Which makes you wonder,
What's that?
why do some stories like this even without that concrete proof, lodge themselves so deeply in our collective memory? Is it just the allure of a puzzle, or is there something deeper about how these narratives take root?
That's a great question to ponder.
That is the end of this episode. Until next time, keep to the shadows. Some legends are best left undiscovered.